What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Homestand Show. Justin Pooney back in the host chair, and
oh my god,
I didn't kill.
Oh my god!
For everybody wondering, I did not kill Albert Vartani. I did not break his knees. He is fine. He is healthy. I think he's happy. Do we know if he's happy or not?
Who cares?
He left earlier today. He had some prior commitments. But I'm in the host chair today, so you know it's going to be a good one. Joining me today,
oh my god.
Noor Zainab.
Help.
I can't wait for this because
I was going to introduce you right now, Sean.
No, I mean, hey, I go by Sean on the old Twitter sphere, you know.
Sean.
I'm just happy to be with you guys in the middle, a mediator for this basketball argument that I'm sure is going to ensue. I hope to play peacemaker because there's lots going on
here. You should have worn a referee
here.
shirt or something.
Well,
so, you know.
But here's the thing. Sean. I don't know if we're going to disagree on a whole lot of things.
Okay.
Hopefully not.
You usually do. So.
Well, here's the thing. Let's start off where it matters the most right now in Toronto Raptor land. Pascal Siakam. Reports are, of course, that he's going to get traded. It's inevitable. He will get traded from the Toronto Raptors. He's yet to be traded. I think they should trade him.
Inevitable.
Right? Masai, hurry up and trade him. But if Pascal Siakam somehow stays with the Toronto Raptors this season, which is a big if, and an even bigger if, is if he makes an All-NBA team, which could be kind of tough this year in the Eastern Conference. Guys, he is projected to make a 5-year deal worth over $300 million. First of all, bravo to the NBA Players Association that allows guys who are maybe a top 20 to 25 player in the NBA to get over $300 million. That's really the American dream.
Are you pocket watching?
I'm not pocket watching. I'm just saying, we saw a guy with no left hand and Jaylen Brown get the biggest deal in NBA history.
Where'd they end up in the finals last year?
They weren't in the finals last year.
Oh, sorry. The year before that.
Okay.
Where have they been?
They would have been in the finals this year had Jaylen Brown had a left hand. But my question to you guys is this. If somehow Siakam makes All-NBA, will the Raptors be the biggest idiots in the world to give Siakam a 5-year, $300 million deal?
The way you started that off, biggest idiots, that's a little harsh. I don't know. But, I mean, I don't think they'll give him that. I think it's just a matter of, like, how does he fit your timeline? I think the Raptors have decided that he doesn't. Masai has said that as well. And them looking to move him means that they don't foresee him being a part of their future, which is why I don't think they will shed so much money off on a guy that they're looking to trade right now, right this moment. And I think the reason for that as well is because they don't want to pay him that. They don't want to pay him what he might be worth depending on what kind of season he has. Now, he had an off season last year. The team did, actually. He didn't. He still had career high numbers, all across the board compared to his previous years. So the chances of him doing something with this team, because he would be the sole star if he were to stay, I think are high. But that's also why the Raptors might want to move him, because they don't want to be tied to that amount of money because they don't see a future with this guy anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. As we talked about before, like, he had to go and open his mouth about saying he wouldn't sign somewhere else if he got traded, he wouldn't sign there. So the Raptors are sort of handcuffed to what they're able to do with Siakam. And even, I think according to Shams too, like, you're right, the Raptors haven't had extension talks with Siakam, but they seem to have had a lot of trade talks, at least teams coming to the Raptors and saying, hey, we're interested in, you know, the low ball sort of offer that the Hawks gave. So he doesn't fit the long-term solution of this team, but that's what I think this season is all about. And you guys have mentioned it a bunch, is what is this Toronto Raptors team? Where are they? Like, they seem to think they're contenders, or at least playoff contenders, but I see them as more of a play-in team and a bit of a rebuild. So, like, that's sort of what they need to find out, is what is their identity, and then you can figure out how to pay Siakam and what you want to do with Siakam.
I think Miami actually screwed us over because Masai saw that and he was like, oh, they were the play-in team, but they made it to the finals. We can do that
too.
They
made the Eastern Conference Finals the year before. They were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference the year before.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, so I did the math. It's $61 million a year. Right? And as you stack that up to the other biggest contracts in NBA history, you know, it's obviously going to be massive, absorbent. There's probably going to be another every year. We're going to continue to break the biggest NBA extension records, biggest contract, because that's just how the CBA, the salary cap's going up and up and up. Player salaries are skyrocketing. The biggest thing to me is this. Look, Pascal Siakam is an all-star. He is an all-star, right?
I agree.
I cannot refute that. He's made an all-NBA squad before. As Noor mentioned, he's improved every year. But he is not, and I repeat, Pascal Siakam is not a number one option on a playoff team or even on a, but far and away not on a championship level team. And I get it. The CBA offers that extension to him. But he is not worth $60 million a year. $300 million, right? The Toronto Raptors.
See, I wouldn't say he's not worth it because I think he's worth it.
He's worth $300 million.
If you look at his stats, where how far he's come, his potential, they're allowed that kind of a money. Look at Luka Doncic. He's making 5 years to $15 million, right? But he's been with the Mavericks. Mavericks finished 11 last season.
But
so
he's also taken the Mavericks to a Western Conference Finals, though.
Okay, but so the Pascal Siakam has won a
He averages
championship.
third.
What are you talking about? I could go
Pascal
back and forth
Siakam
all
was the
day.
third best player on the championship team. Luka Doncic is the driving force of the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic averages 30-plus points a game average 32, 8, and
Relax
8
your
in
blood
a season.
pressure. Yes, I
But
understand
don't.
that.
But you put Pascal Siakam and Luka Doncic in the same sentence. That is not plausible.
You're not getting my point. What I'm telling you is someone like him, who clearly is a better player than Siakam, was not able to take his team over the hump of the 11th seed with having Kyrie Irving next to you. So the success of your team, I think, doesn't have much to do with how much money you're making. It's all about the player that you are alone. That standalone thing should be a factor, especially given how much you've improved over the years. With Siakam, each year he comes back with better numbers. You can laugh, you can smirk, whatever, but he picked up a basketball at 18 years old. At now, 10 years later, he's one of the best players. Maybe not the best, but he's like top 20, right? Top 25, absolutely, very easily. But that tells me that he's worth the amount of money. It's just the Raptors held him back. The Raptors were not well constructed for a guy like him.
If he signs his 5-year deal at the end of it, he's going to be like 33 years old, making $60 million.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to do a time check. That was 7 minutes, guys. Congratulations. I knew you guys wouldn't last too long. Yeah, no, the problem is like you're both right, and you're both.
Sean, you got to pick a side.
No, you're
pick
both.
a side.
You're both right.
Switzerland over here.
Siakam is too good to not make that money, but he's also not good enough to carry your team to a championship. So you need a good, you need a Kawhi to your Siakam. You need a Giannis to your Drew Holiday, right? You need somebody that can, coexist and be a superstar alongside Pascal Siakam. Is that Scotty Barnes? Maybe, but they don't seem to like each other, and that's too early in Scotty's career to tell. But that's another issue, right? You want to pay Siakam, say, $300 million or $240 now because he's not eligible for the Supermax. I mean, he's worth that money, but in 2 years from now, you have to decide if Scotty Barnes is worth that money.
Yeah.
Next season, you have to decide if OG is worth that money.
Gary Trent Jr. is going to be up for a new deal.
I've had enough of Gary Trent Jr.
Okay, well, we know where you stand on Gary Trent Jr.
Trent Jr. I think he's a bit overrated, but again, you guys watch more ball than me. But I'm not a huge fan. But yeah, it's just what is their identity, and now you just have to decide who you want to build this team around. Siakam is good enough, but he's not championship good enough. I don't know. It's really interesting.
We've seen this song and dance. Siakam is your best player. Raptors fans, how'd that work out for you? Oh, you haven't done anything yet. But I got to move on. I'm getting in my ear.
Yeah, you wanted the last word. We know that.
Third best player on the championship team. Just saying. Anyway, we're going to move on to Canada basketball.
Okay.
Big news today. Jamal Murray announced that he will be out of the FIBA World Cup because of the long and grueling season. He's the guy that just played in the NBA Finals and won a championship, of course, with the Denver Nuggets. He was the second best player on the championship team. Just going to say that, like Pascal Siakam. But big news for Canada. Of course, they're losing probably their best player, second best player in the nation. Now, the topic of discussion is this, guys. And Noor, I'm going to start with you, as you still look all pissed off at me because of what I said about Siakam. Is this the smart decision by Jamal Murray? Obviously, it's a smart decision personally, but does this show that Team Canada basketball takes a back seat and guys aren't really as committed as we think they are to Team Canada?
I think that's Olympics in general, though. Like, if you look across all sports, even with Team USA, you could have had LeBron part of that.
Well,
Steph
LeBron's
Curry.
put a service in before.
Okay, but I'm talking about right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, what you see usually with these players who are in their prime, and I think I would like to see Jamal Murray play, but I understand why he wouldn't, because he's missed a full season due to injuries. He came back last season, had a full year where he was able to play, able to be in the playoffs, won a championship out of it. So you're going to want to take your body easy. You're going to want to make sure that everything you're doing is going to be sustainable throughout the year that's to come, because yes, Team Canada, Olympics, the patriotism is very important. But to them, their eyes are still on the NBA championship. He wants to defend that title. And as much as I would love to see our best players putting Canada on the map, wearing that maple leaf proud, and I honestly think had we had that full team together, they would win easily. I think they would beat the U.S. very easily too.
You think the full Canadian team would be the full, like stacked up, like the Canada's
Not the
best
stacked
in the
team
U.S.
versus stacked team.
Oh, but the current U.S. team.
Yeah.
Are you okay? Obviously talking about right now, not 10 years ago.
No,
This team-
No, I'm saying like at the U.S. but their best 12 players, and then we put.
Obviously not. I'm
Okay.
saying as it pertains what we have the schedule for all the other teams out there too on the roster.
Yeah.
If Canada had Jamal Murray play, they should be the favorites to win that, which hurts as a Canadian because you would see how much that puts you on the map. It probably gets the love of basketball going for a lot of different people, but at the same time though, I can't help but feel for him because of what he's gone through, and I'm sure he just wants to be back there, be healthy, and not give himself extra obstacles to not be healthy for this season and defend the title.
Well, this is what Jamal Murray said. He said, in consultation with medical staff and the team, it is clear that additional recovery is required. I have made the difficult decision to not participate in the tournament. It's still a dream of mine to represent Canada at the Olympics, which is next year, of course, in 2024 in Paris, and Canada needs to qualify for that still. And I will support the team every step of the way as they pursue this goal. So, to your point, I think you're right. If it was the Olympics, I think Jamal Murray would play. I think in the Olympics, you're going to get everybody that wants to play. Canada has not been in the Olympics since the year 2000, since Steve Nash was leading it. And we are in a golden age of Canada basketball. And we just got the topic of player salaries and how important they are to teams. These guys are investments to billionaire owners, right? They are a prized entity to their organizations, the team that pays their bills. Canada basketball doesn't pay Jamal Murray, right? He's doing it out of his own, goodness and his loyalty to his nation. So I understand why. Giannis said, no, I'm not going to play because I'm not ready, right? And I understand that, right?
Jokic isn't playing either.
Jokic isn't playing either, right? So Canada has enough talent here to at least make it to the finals of this tournament, right? I don't know if they're going to beat the U.S. The U.S. can get got, but I think this is, the U.S. is still the cream of the crop. But Sean, how much pressure is on Canada in this tournament to finally do something? Because we saw it in soccer. We're in the golden age of soccer, finally, for men's soccer, right? In basketball, we've seen it now, the last however many years, 10 plus years now, of consistently bringing NBA level talent, right? It's now the norm to see a Canadian on an NBA team, and he'll start and play a prominent role, right? Andrew Wiggins and Jamal Murray, the Canadians in the last two NBA finals that played major roles. It's time for Canada basketball to put it together and finally do something on the world stage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. And I think, like you said, I think if this was the Olympics, he'd push himself to play. I like the fact that he showed up to training camp, too, just to, try it out, and also showed that he was interested. It's not like one of those guys who sits out and just, sort of ignores his country's needs. And this team is very good. I don't know, if they can make a run to the finals. I think in a few sports books, they're the fourth favorite to win behind USA, France, and Australia.
They were the second until the Murray announcement.
Which makes sense. I mean, again, I think you said it. He's probably the second best player on this team next to Shea. I don't know. I mean, they had an impressive win over Germany just this last weekend, winning the DBB Super Cup. So, I mean, they're making strides, which I think that's the most important thing, because you're right. Now players are finally starting to play for Canada, and you have more better younger talent like Lou Dort. He's part of the squad. Shea, Corey Joseph's been there for a long time. So yeah, they'll probably make it out of their group. They'll probably make a push, but I don't know if it's that essential. I think it's just essential to build upon the team, make the Olympics, do well in the Olympics next year. Then I think it's important.
So just for reference, to qualify for the Olympics in 2024, the top two teams from the Americas in this tournament will qualify. If they don't, they got to do it next year in the FIBA Olympic qualifying tournament, which the top four teams. So there's opportunities, but I think you got to strike while the iron's hot, and you have a lot of commitment from NBA players this summer. You got to get to the finals. You got to get to the semis, at least, I believe, for this Canadian squad. Speaking of squads that are in trouble and on a slippery slope, the Philadelphia 76ers have been in the news for all the wrong reasons this week. James Harden called Daryl Morey a liar in China, which screams a whole lot of irony. And Noor Zainab, my co-host here, thought she'd put together a little piece on where the Sixers will place in the Eastern Conference playoff race this season.
Welcome to the process. Philly fans were promised their trust in the process would result in championships, but fast forward 10 years and they haven't even sniffed an Eastern Conference Finals appearance. Plus, the status of their offseason this summer is telling me the only ring they'll get is a ring pop. Harden hates Morey. Morey is keeping Harden. Embiid isn't happy. So what does that mean for this season? Considering everything, the Sixers will end up as the 7th or 8th seed. Let me say that again. Considering everything, the Sixers will end up as a 7th or 8th seed. Here's why. Yes, this team almost replicates last year's team that won 54 games, but this team has problems. Harden wants to leave, and despite his previous agreement with Morey, things have soured. Even if they can't trade him right now, the chances of him being traded during the season are high, especially if he chooses to sit out. And if that's the case, whatever they get in return would not amount to Harden's talent. Now you've got an injury-prone Embiid, a rising star but young player Maxey, and a flaky supporting cast of Pat Bev, Tobias Harris, Montrezl Harrell, and PJ Tucker. It's good, but not good enough to compete with the powerhouses of Bucks and Celtics. The Cavaliers and Knicks will pass them for sure, but I'd also put my money on Hawks and Heat ending up above Philly's mess. The East has a lot of talent with the Nets, Raptors, and Bulls also hovering around the play-in spots. That, paired with their locker room problems, shaky roster, injury-prone superstar, and a disgruntled Harden with zero trade market, tells me they will be falling off the ladder this season. And if you don't believe in locker room problems, just look at Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Wow.
Are you speechless?
Talk about falling off a ladder. The Sixers ain't going to be a playoff team. Wow.
Enjoy the process, fellas.
This is a team that's won 50 games in like 4 times in the last 6 years. And they're not going to make the playoffs now?
No.
Wow.
They're falling off. I don't think so. No, not at all. No. I think if they might have a slight push towards the end of the year, and that's not to say they might not make the playoffs through the play-in, but I just don't see them having the supporting cast or the talent to get them through the regular season. Because look at the Eastern Conference. You're looking at the one team, but you've got, again, like as I mentioned, Bucks and Celtics are always going to be at the top. They're the powerhouses. Mm-hmm. Then you have the Cavs and Knicks, who are actually going to be pretty good as well. Like these are new teams that are going to come back, more experience, getting to know their teammates around them, and having more of an idea of what they want to get out of the season as well. So I think they'll be up there above Philly as well. And then what you have Nets, Hawks, and Nets, Raptors, and Bulls. I think they kind of Nets could actually be above the Raptors and Bulls depending on, but that depends on what the Raptors will do. On the other hand of it too, Bulls, yes, they're without Lonzo Ball. They'll be without him for the full year and a point guard, but that also tells me they might make a move to bring in a point guard to help out DeRozan and Zach LaVine, who are, again, very good duos if they can get it going. And they have gotten it going last year. If you remember the November-December stretch, they were the best team in the league. They fell off afterwards because Lonzo got hurt, but I think they can still do it. But that tells me if Harden is not going to be playing, what's happening right now, I don't think Harden is even going to be playing. If he's going to be playing, it's going to be tough because you don't just go to China, have a press conference and say, I do not like my GM and not have any repercussions after, or have somewhat of a very passionate, conclusion coming out of it, which means you will not play for your team. And if that's the case, he already doesn't have a good market. And he ends up being traded throughout the season, I doubt they will get anything back compared to what Harden's talent is because they just won't be able to win that argument at that point. Like if Harden wants to go, nobody wants him, you'll have to take whatever you can get to get back because at this point your star is not playing. So whatever you get back that might be less than Harden is still good enough.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. Sorry.
I was going to say, it might be easier to trade him mid-season than off-season because if you're trading him mid-season, he's probably going to a contender, right?
Yeah.
So he'll be motivated to play. Obviously, you're going to get for somebody like James Harden who can be a game changer, you're probably going to have to give up a bit more just because he'll be a rental, he'll be on an expiring contract, but you're going to have to pay to get him because that's just the going rate for somebody who can help you win, like James Harden.
Look, you're going to get some expiring contracts probably. You'll get some money back. But look, the Sixers don't make the playoffs. I still can't wrap my head around that because They have Joel Embiid. Say what you will. Say what you will about the playoffs.
I said it.
Say what you will about the playoffs. I will agree with you on certain things. They're not on the same level as the Bucks or the Celtics, even with Harden. Not on the same level, for sure. When Miami gets Dame Lillard, they're not going to be on that category either, right? They'll probably be, again, a 4th, 5th, or a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, right? They're not going to be they're too good. Joel Embiid is too good of a player in the regular season.
If your point guard is not refusing to play, if he's not there to help you out, Embiid, yes, he's a freak of nature. He can put up numbers whenever he wants to, but the problem is how often will he be on the court and healthy? Because he's had the issue of that ever since he's been in the league, which is why they've barely
66 and 68 games the last 2 years.
But he's had help before, though. He's had people around him. He's got Harden. He had Ben Simmons. Well, granted, didn't equate to anything, but he's had the only thing there, Justin, is you have to have people on the court that can at least take the pressure off of you for you to make those shots. He has Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
That's it.
Look, the way I
Nobody
see it
else.
is when you have a guy like Joel Embiid who just won MVP, you're going to do everything in your power to make sure.
I mean, we can make the argument he couldn't have won MVP either, but yeah.
He could have won MVP
He
for the
would have
last
been
2.
second then in voting or whatever, right? Like
He was
I'm
due
on
for a
Team Jokic
regular
too,
season MVP. He was due for a regular season MVP.
Okay, no, absolutely. But all I'm saying is this is not going to be the same team where Embiid is going to have the help of taking the pressure off of him when it comes to the other team's defense. He will have to do everything if it'll be him and Maxey. And Maxey's a great player.
20 points he averaged last year, Maxey.
I'm saying he's a great player,
And-
a rising star, but
Yeah.
he's also young, Justin. He's still young as well.
He's just entering his he's going to be 23 this year. This is his 23-year-old season.
still
He
young.
played 75 games the year before at point guard.
Okay, so
Right?
so
I'm just saying he can play point guard. He can play point guard.
I know, but the duo then will be what? Embiid and Maxey.
Yes.
Let's compare them, okay? Then you've got Giannis and Drew.
That's not a comparison.
Then no, obviously
Yeah,
not.
obviously.
I'm giving you the duos of the Eastern Conference, may I? And then you have Donovan Mitchell and you have
Darius Garland.
Yes, well, no, I'm talking about like the best
Guard
teams
big.
on the exactly the best teams, the best players on the team. Then you have the Jays, right? Then you've got Brunson, and you have let's give him Barrett. Then you're gonna have Levine, and you have DeRozan. You have Trey, and you have DeJounte. These are players and duos that actually, like, I understand Embiid's a great guy, but you have to look at what he has on the other side, where I think Maxey will be supporting cast, but he's not going to be the it factor to help Embiid out. He's not. He's too young.
I think the rest of the team is pretty good. Like you said,
Tobias Harris.
Tobias
He
Harris,
had
you know,
such an off season last year. Don't even bring up Tobias Harris.
you know, Tucker,
He's
Beverly.
a good
We only
defender,
have
but he's not offensively a guy.
Yeah, we only have a
Tobias
couple minutes, but I agree with you. I see them as a 5th or 6th seed. I 7th might be a bit too low for me, but I mean, I think that a lot of things have to sort of go right for them to maintain the 4th, 3rd seed. Like if Embiid does play less than 65, 66 games, and Harden is being Harden and not, you know, either not showing up out of shape, you know, being benched, maybe that's a possibility. I mean, I think he won't stay away from the team because it'll cost him too much money. And then if you don't report, like, I think you can't enter free agency the next year without
there's
the
a whole
team
lot of
having
CBA
to
stuff like that. Yeah.
So he'll be there. What capacity, we don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's bold, but I don't see it.
Bold to
but
say the least.
But again, it's not outside the realm of possibility. If Embiid misses some time,
Who do you have?
who do you have? If Harden's bench, maybe you know, or gets traded, and then the people that you get traded for don't really work out. It's a mystery, so that's why I'm not against it. But you told me to pick a side.
You're paying Switzerland.
You
too
told
much
me to
right
pick a
now,
side.
man. Come on.
I'm on your side
Thank
for this.
you.
But I'm just saying it's not as crazy as you're making it out.
Well,
to be.
you know what? Noor definitely got my blood pressure boiling right now.
Go take a pill, man.
I'm
Take it
still
easy.
hot about it. I think, and you mentioned all those duos. Still got Joel Embiid, the reigning MVP. The Sixers will be in the playoffs. And after this break, we're gonna have James Sharman and Sarah Pereira come in and talk some footy with some Messi and some Women's World Cup. Stick around.
That got really colonially weird.
God
for
save
you.
the
Doesn't it feel
king.
good? Doesn't it feel great? Was
It's
it King?
weird that
Yeah, God
Justin
save the
loves
king.
England when they really tore up India and
Well, my mom
everything
was-
they did to your country.
Well,
Hey.
okay, I
Hey,
get. Okay.
Hey.
you're at least from there.
Okay,
and
but
you're
here's the thing, but
roots,
here's the thing.
that's a really
But
weird
no, but
flag.
hear me out, right? My mother was born in the UK
Yeah, because they.
because they. Yeah, but
and you're playing God Save the King. Just
Let's stop. What's this anti-colonialism here?
Look,
you know,
I don't-
there's some wonderful things dominating the world
I
for
mean,
a while. There. It's a great
it's
run.
kind of a double. If it wasn't for the country of the country of England, I wouldn't have a mother, and then I wouldn't be here talking to you guys.
You know, and Nura would be very happy.
Yeah, Noor would be very
What's with
happy.
the anger
about
there?
that.
Holy
Yeah. Are we
smokes.
starting? Like, are we gonna fight about this knuckle?
No.
No. Okay. So James Sharman, Sarah Praria, who's giving me the evil eye right now. Obviously, you heard the English national anthem there because the Lionesses are moving on to the World Cup final to face Spain. Now, guys, big match. Sarah, me and you were talking about this earlier. This could possibly be like break viewership records across the globe because you have Spain, you have England, global powers in the world of football, and nations that have, again, colonialism roots all across the globe where people are still going to be cheering for it. So, Sarah, I'm going to start with you. Let's focus on this matchup that we saw between Australia, the host nation, and England. How did the Lionesses do it without their best player, Lauren James, once again, to get to the finals?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about bouncing back. They showed so much, ability after Sam Kerr scored that they weren't going to let that get to them. And they made the best of, what they had with their team. You said no Lauren James, but this is a very aggressive side, a very powerful up front that it didn't matter. And Australia's defense, I'll be honest with you, weren't great. And they completely tore them apart. And, I mean, I think that's the similarity they have with Spain. We've seen both of these teams be down and bounce back. And that's why I think this final is going to be so exciting.
Resilience, right? And it's
Resilience,
physical,
I
wasn't
couldn't
it?
come
It was
to
such
me.
a physical affair. I mean, Sam Kerr, who was amazing, she started the game and scored just a worldie of a goal.
Yeah.
But she was brutalized by the England players. They went after her. And listen, she probably should have scored a hat-trick, would you say? I mean, what,
Yeah.
crossbar?
Oh, and in the 80th
And a volley
there.
she almost scored as well, right? I
Yeah.
mean, she came really close to making this a special night for Australia, but I think in the end the better team won. England's a better team than Australia. Australia's been probably the story of this tournament, being the home nation. How well they've done without Sam Kerr.
Sure.
But Lauren Hemp was an absolute beast today,
Yeah.
all
Player
over
of
the
the
place.
match?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was fantastic. And Sandra Wigman, the coach, second World Cup for two different teams now.
Serena.
So,
Sorry, I heard it
Sandra.
and I was like, who's Sandra?
I
Wait
knew
a minute.
Sandra Wigman once. I think that's why.
Oh,
Serena Wigman.
hi to
sorry.
Sandra.
Yeah, hey, Sandra. But I mean, just an absolute legend of a coach, a legend. And England are thirsting for success, right? The men have let them down. Well, since I've been born, right, forever.
Almost 60 years.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, England won Euro last year with the girls,
Yeah.
and that was brilliant. Could they do it on the world stage? Well, yeah, they
what a
could.
run that would be.
Oh my word! I mean, that's like Spain, the men's side back in 08, 10, and 12.
Yeah.
Almost, and not quite the third yet.
08, 10, and 12. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say, hold on.
You
Not
mentioned,
quite there.
You mentioned a point, James. We talk about how much the women's game has helped grow the game of soccer in Canada, right? And we're seeing it in England now with the with the women's Premier League out there and stuff like that. How big would this be for the nation of England if the women can capture their first ever World Cup and their first really? They won the Euros the previous year or whatever. To win a World Cup, right? In like you mentioned, a nation that's starved just to have a winner.
Well, I think it's the same for Spain, though, right?
Same for Spain too.
Because Spain's men's soccer is pretty successful.
Yes.
England's men's soccer pretty successful, right? You can't really grow that too much. But women's soccer, both in Spain and England, you can definitely grow. It's coming along for sure. The WSL is doing wonderful things in England. The big clubs are taking it seriously now. Barcelona's been a dominant force for some time, but outside of Barcelona, Spanish women's football hasn't been that successful, right? This could really elevate either one, and maybe regardless of what happens on the weekend, both those nations will see the women's game elevate. I think it's a good place to be right now, women's soccer. And we're seeing it in Canada with Project 8 in a couple of years' time. Listen, there's obstacles, there's challenges, I know that. But overall, I mean, you've watched the women's game your entire life, right? I can't say that I have. You have Where are you at right now with where the game is and where it's growing?
I mean, I think it's great because one of the talking points of this World Cup in general was obviously the expansion. And people were worried that we even spoke about it. The expansion was going to, cause us to see games that were maybe a little bit uneven, unmatched. Yet you have the likes of Jamaica, Morocco, Colombia going the distance and challenging these teams like Canada, Brazil, Germany that weren't making it out, right? So to me, it just shows women's football is growing at such a level, and that is the takeaway from this. Whether Spain wins, whether Germany wins.
Germany.
Right, it's natural to think that, right? They generally do.
But England, I think the biggest thing is that it's grown so much in these smaller nations that maybe didn't have a chance at the world stage, and now we're seeing them do that. And again, we're still going to see a team that has never won a World Cup win as well. So just so many good storylines, I think, overall. And I think it just shows for the next World Cup, like, it's time we got to step our game up, Canada specifically, but so many of these nations, because we're moving at a really good rate. And I'm happy to see it.
I think you mentioned the first time each one of these nations won their first ever World Cup, right? And that, I'm glad it's not the U.S. because it would have been the same old tired story. Now, again, the drive for 3 would have been something special, but I think the fact that we're going to get a new champion from nations that you mentioned, where the game is growing rapidly, right, is something truly remarkable. But I also think that, like you said, the biggest storyline for me in this World Cup is just those that you mentioned, the Jamaicas, the Colombias, the Moroccos, the sides that you didn't expect to do anything, did something of prominence, right? I think that's a major takeaway that I have from this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, who's to face this tournament? Is it Linda Caicedo?
I mean, honestly, with just her background story and the fact that she was ill and she fought, what was it, ovarian cancer at the age of
a year or two ago.
Yeah, and then she, helped carried her team to, the quarterfinals, scoring a couple of nasty goals.
She's been in, 3 World Cups in the space of a year, hasn't she?
Yeah, because she was with, the U20 and the U17. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, she's definitely, if not the one of them. I mean, that's the kind of heartwarming stuff that you want to hear about, though, in the World Cup, because it's so great for her. I have a question for you guys, because both Spain and England are getting a lot of shtick about their federations. We know that both of them, Jorge Vilda, obviously the coach of Spain, has had issues with players, hence why 15 of them dropped out so that they were not going to play football anymore with them. England's federation as well has had issues in the past with their women's team, and a lot of people are kind of upset that this is the final, but there are issues there, don't get me wrong. But dare I say that these are also 2 teams that have had federations that have also put money into the federation. That's why we've seen some of the best talented women's football. I know Beth Mead isn't there, but you can't say she isn't. Alexia Putellas, these are some of the best female players in the world. And I think it's unfair to say that, there are issues. Let's not be ignorant. But the talent is there.
I mean, Canada Soccer, take notes.
They've developed, but they've had the money, right? Canada Soccer hasn't got the money.
For
English,
sure.
the FA's got a ton of money.
Yeah.
Spanish Federation
but not
has
even
a ton
just
of money.
compared to Canada, just in general. It's a bit frustrating because I'm but these are proper football nations that are really trying to.
Well, you know what? You watch this World Cup and compare it to the World Cup of 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's a different game entirely.
Yeah.
These are technically sound, athletic. It's incredible football. It's fast-paced. I'll go back to the Sam Kerr goal today.
Yeah.
I don't care who's scoring that goal. That is incredible. That commercial before the World Cup with France. For Adidas, and they basically AI is terrifying. they mapped the female women players onto the French men players, scoring these incredible goals.
Yeah,
and because it was the men, you're like, oh, wow, amazing. But actually, no, women scored those goals.
Yeah,
the game is advanced, and it's keeping advancing.
You mentioned it, James, and you mentioned it too as well, Sarah. Money, right? We look at it. Why is the United States the biggest power in the women's game? Money. Why are we seeing England, Spain, France, Japan, Sweden go to these levels? Money.
Yeah.
They invest in the women's game. And that is the only way you're going to grow the game from all levels, from the grassroots level up. You got to invest money into it.
Well, that's where Project A
exactly.
And they're going the private way. They're getting the private money at this point, right?
Whether it's public money or private.
Exactly.
Canadian public soccer has no money, so you have to go the private way. And I think that is sad, but money is what makes the world go round, right? Especially in the world of sports. You look at it,
even the men's side in England, they've only really committed to spending and developing St George's Park and that side of things the last 10, 15 years. And look what's happening now. You're seeing the Phil Fodens and Jack Grealishes, these young kids coming through.
Jude Bellingham.
Jude Bellingham's a great example,
Exactly.
Right? I mean, England's been a force for my whole life, but never won anything. But the last 10, 15 years, you're seeing this because they throw money at development.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, it's a testament to see two federations, like you mentioned, really get behind these women and invest in these women, and you're seeing the benefits of those investments because they're breaking barriers, and now each one of them might win their first World Cup. This wouldn't be Room 442 or the Homestand Show if we didn't talk a little Leo Messi, because last night, once again, Inter Miami won, and of course, Mr. Messi found the score sheet once again.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Okay. Yeah. What the hell was the goalkeeper doing?
Sleeping, watching Messi in awe, maybe.
Yeah, probably as a spectator like this.
He had no business
my feet are
scoring
quicker than
that. No,
So-
absolutely.
So, James, I know you're the biggest basketball guy, but I equated this earlier to Messi being in America like the dream team in 1992 in Barcelona. People were just in awe to see Michael Jordan, in awe to see Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. I'm sure these guys are in awe. They're sharing the same pitch with Messi.
Well, even Jim Curtin, the Philadelphia manager, said
Yeah.
post-match, maybe, he didn't say starstruck, but essentially maybe
Yeah.
we couldn't believe the occasion. We're playing against Leo Messi. That will soon change, right? They'll figure it out.
For sure.
They were going at Messi, right? They weren't giving him too much respect. They were very physical against him, as was Orlando prior. We know how that turns out, right? You know what? We discussed this yesterday briefly, and it's getting a lot of heat on social media. Is it a good look or bad look for MLS, what he's doing? And my point is, he did the same thing in La Liga. He did the same thing in international football, did the same thing when he was happy in French football. It's Leo Messi. It's what he does. He dominates leagues.
I think it's more so the story because Inter Miami is like the worst team in the league and what they've been able to do. And especially, I think Philly is the worst example here, or the best example, rather.
The fourth
because,
best team in the
yeah,
fourth
they're
best team in
one
the
of the
league.
best teams. Subaru Park is a force. They have their tifos, their fan base, they're massive. But they literally decided to roll over and say, oh, Messi's here. And this was Messi's worst game since he's played, and that's his worst game. Only 44 touches, you know what I mean? But the fact that they're elevating the other players on the pitch, and that's, I think, the story there, because it wasn't like he went to a Barcelona or a PSG that were the worst in that league either. This is also a way lower level, and it's just what I think he's been able to do. But yeah, Philly, I think they got caught. They got starstruck a little bit, and I think they yeah.
Well,
I don't-
Miami now is second favorites to win MLS.
Yes.
Who's the
To win
favorite?
MLS.
And they're dead last in the Eastern Conference.
Crazy.
I think it's LAFC. I think it was Cincinnati. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Second favorites. They're 12 points back of the playoffs.
Amazing.
I think people expect them to just win out
they're
every game when league
they're
play.
beating teams, like Orlando and Philly, who are 20 plus points above them.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I mean, if you do the math, you're like, hold on a minute, can they do this?
By the
Look-
way, some trivia for you.
I don't want it.
Leo Messi is one trophy away, which he'll be playing against Nashville to do that on the weekend. The all-time most decorated footballer for trophies. Right now, he's tied with
Danny
another-
Alves.
Oh.
Oh yeah, this is a Barcelona stat. Get out
That
of
was a
here.
layup. That was a layup.
Yeah.
So Miami's won 6 straight. Messi has 9 goals in those 6 games. They now take on Nashville in Nashville, apparently. I didn't know
Yeah.
Nashville had a soccer stadium, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I said this earlier to Sarah. I'm like, do you think Messi could just
This
walk
is
down
insane.
Broadway Street in Nashville, all those country bars, and nobody would know who he is?
He said this earlier, and he said people in Nashville don't know who Messi is.
I'm just
I
saying,
apologize to everyone in Nashville.
I'm just saying, do people in Nashville know who Messi is?
They're not ignorant. What do you think happened? Like, there's the way you're talking about.
I think
what-
now he's pretty well known.
Yeah, nah.
It's amazing within the last month what's happened, right? Really.
Hey, it's America. You never
Listen,
know.
I think a month ago, I agree with you. I think he probably could have
Right?
walked down
Okay,
there.
let me ask you this. Who gets more recognized on the streets? Tom Brady in Birmingham or
Ooh,
Leo
that's
Messi in Nashville? Who gets more
That's a
recognized?
good one, that is.
I don't know. I think both of them would get recognized.
No, Messi gets more recognized. No one knows who Tom Brady is.
But isn't NFL pretty
It's
big in
pretty-
the UK?
yeah, it's gotten pretty
They have
big in the
and
UK.
it's
No,
Tom Brady.
It's got a
not
following.
like
It's not big though. It's got
Yeah.
a following for sure.
I don't know.
I used to watch
Messi
it
is-
10:30 p.m. Sunday nights on Channel 4. I used to sneak upstairs and watch it, the highlights, and that's why I became a Dolphins fan.
Oh, and
Okay.
how's that going?
Not so well.
Yeah, the Dolphins aren't bad this year.
Dan Marino was great
They
back
should
in
be
those
in the
days.
playoffs.
Dan Marino.
The last question I have before we wrap up the show is Messi overshadowing the great play of Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba too?
Hasn't he always?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think he personally is, but as someone who's also watched both of them, but I think even yourself, you're as a proper football fan, you know how good Boosie is. But I do notice when the commentators are speaking or the announcers, they go, Messi and company. And I'm thinking, even last night, they referenced Messi and Busquets and co. And I'm thinking, Jordi Alba got his first goal for Inter Miami, and you're not even going to reference him? Like, it's always kind of been the story. I think it's just, what sells and what's shiny and glorious.
It is,
but
yeah.
real football fans know.
I'm sure Apple's making them say a certain
Yeah,
correction.
There's a gun to the back of their head saying you have to talk
but
about Messi.
I think people know how good Boosie is.
We mentioned there's some odds. So according to North Star Bets, for the MLS Golden Boot, Messi's plus 500, the third best odds.
Third best?
He hasn't even played a league match yet.
That's
and he's still the third best
He's
odds.
not catching Seni Mukhtar. He's not.
How many goals does Honey have?
How many does he have?
Do we know?
I think it's like 15 or 16, isn't it?
How many games does Miami have left in the season?
10 or so,
10?
around
Oh,
there.
I'm not going to put it past him. I mean, 2
but
goals a
Mukhtar's
game.
going to keep scoring
Yeah,
as well.
that's the
It's
thing.
not as if he just
He's
stopped
already-
scoring.
That's true. And then we have, of course, the
Oh, it is
MLS odds.
Cincinnati,
where
eh?
Cincy's
Cincy.
got the best odds,
LAFC
but right
and
behind
Miami.
is Inter Miami.
I mean, the money's flying in for people that don't really know.
That's
Exactly.
incredible.
But, I mean, listen, I put nothing past Leo Messi.
yeah.
Nothing.
You can't. You keep thinking something, and then no, he just keeps proving you wrong.
The worst team by a mile in MLS for the last 2 years is about to win a trophy.
Well, we're not talking about Toronto FC.
How? Well, last 2 years. It's close.
Close.
By the
Whenever
way,
Justin can get it
Sean
in.
Johnson, by the way, he's out for 6 weeks.
Oh,
Broken
no.
hand. Man, just when you get
Broken
Insigne's back
hand.
this week, apparently, and so is Michael Bradley.
All right.
But you lose Sean Johnson.
We'll see if it's
Insigne-
in
Well,
yeah,
is he gonna be back?
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm just trying to pull up the Vancouver Whitecaps odds to win the MLS Cup right now.
You know what?
well.
Vancouver's a good team. Made some
They
great
just made
moves. Sam Adekirby and Richie Lorette.
Richie.
Just signed a
I
guy
love
from
him.
Get out.
Brazil right now too. Hold on, I just want to see this just for my own sake.
Where you at there?
Whitecaps FC plus 8,000.
You know what?
There
It's
you
worth
go.
a sprinkle.
It's worth a sprinkle.
MLS postseason, anything can happen.
It's true. Anyway, that is all the time we have for you guys today on the Homestand Show. Thank you. Please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media platforms. And we'll be back tomorrow with more of the Homestand Show.